Of late, there's been a lot of love for Indian private equity. I think it's done well. And so I don't see a slowdown for the best managers in Indian private equity. And India has also been an area of interest and renewed focus for a lot of global managers or Asia managers who are allocating more to India because they see it as one bright spot in this global war, both because of the China backlash and because, there's no other large market in the world the size of India. So I don't think there is long-term pessimism at all. I think it's long-term super optimistic. There will be some short-term speed bumps because of all the factors you wove in. So there is always hesitation when there's uncertainty. People are not in a tearing hurry to write checks. So people be cautious. But I don't know if you know this, but some of the best PE funds in the country have raised record-sized funds. Even within venture, if you look at folks like us or a peer group or the folks who are American brands which invest out of India in venture, most of them have actually been successful in raising follow-on funds. And we are on the way as well at Blume. Hopefully in the next few months, we'll have our fundraise done as well. Now, if you look at, therefore, the dry powder, as they say in our industry, there is enough to be able to finance the early onset of technology ventures, and that's what predominantly venture does, in India up to Series A and B. The problem is when you go to growth. When you go to growth, in the RARA days, you used to have SoftBank and Tiger and Coatue and all of these people plowing money, thinking the big boom is around the corner. And I think most have realized that India, after a certain stage, you either focus on profitability or you can keep burning money growing. And yes. I think people have become cautious there and are pushing companies more and more towards the profitability end of the spectrum and pushing them to get to the public markets. And therefore, if you have raised a bunch of capital between Series A and B, which I think the market is fairly robust for and will continue to be, you've got to be careful about whether you have the metrics to be able to command the Series Cs and Ds, or do you have to start planning towards a path to profitability or going public earlier than ever imagined before the pandemic. So that's kind of my high-level take, Sri.
Understood. Karthik, so you remain optimistic and confident about the animal spirits and the long-term prospects, although there may be speed bumps in the here and now. Yeah. Blume was the first ever VC in India to fully raise its first fund from domestic investors. Can I ask you how close you are to raising your fifth fund, and would that take Blume's total AUM closer to that magic $1 billion mark?
Yeah, we hope so. Too early to say. I think there's 4 or 5 months of work. And Indian investors have been bullish, but they also get disappointed a little quicker than long-term global institutional investors, in the sense that they want to see return cycles faster, and therefore they tend to gravitate towards slightly later stage assets, and we are early stage venture. So we've had enormous support from India, from within India, like you said, from that very first fund. But I think that will slow down a little, and we're still going to be, like always, dependent on lots of foreign institutional money also backing us. And that, I think, is in a zone of uncertainty today, given the global environment. Does somebody has to pull a trigger next week just because I'm closing? I don't think anyone's in a hurry. So I think that people will pace it, but for the first time in many quarters, I've got inbounds in the last couple of weeks saying, hey, there's a lot of interest now in trying to understand India a little better. We'll try and come down and meet you next month. So, that hasn't happened in a while for at least a new manager. If we do get to close to that 300 mark, which is what we are aiming for, 250 to 300 million in our fifth fund, which is about the same size as our fund 4, then it should put us, as you said, within like arm's length of that $1 billion magic mark. We are also working on, like every VC manager in the world, it's not peculiar to India. Everyone's working on trying to generate what's called DPI in the industry, which is basically distributions. And if distributions have to be managed through 3 ways, and trade sales are minimal in India. So it's either IPOs or secondaries. And when you do secondaries, a lot of the guys buying the secondaries don't want to take concentrated risks. So they actually ask you to build a portfolio for them and continue to manage them. So yes. That also comes under the AUM. And hopefully, if we pull off a couple of those, then we hit the $1 billion mark.